Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Bradler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Thank you, random reporter guy.
Thank you so much for that. That almost makes Big Ten Media Days worth it, right?
Who just
that.
Dude just lucked his way into a credential, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of flack for it. I don't know, it's funny that clip, was making the rounds on Twitter back then when that was going on, and some people were like, what the hell is that guy doing there? Like, what is that guy doing there? And then others were like, what's the problem? I don't even see.
Just leave him be. He's just trying to live.
You're just a Michigan guy out there. Look, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. I guess when you've been covering it for a while, and you're still like waiting to see the vibe in the press box. I know we've talked about it a lot, but it's quiet in there, man.
Dude, I'm so used to being like on the verge of like blackout drunk during the games that I don't know. I don't know how this is going to feel. So I haven't watched a Michigan football game sober in quite some time.
Well, we are going to fade this music right out and oh
boy,
jump right in.
Right into it.
Both feet, head, torso, midsection, nads, all of it.
The whole body. Okay. Let's get
in case you missed it.
Guy.
In case you missed it.
This fucking guy.
Paul Finebaum.
What's his deal?
Dude. This fucking guy is right, man. Okay, here's the deal. If you missed it out there, for everybody who doesn't know why we're talking about Paul Finebaum, he went in on Harbaugh today. I mean, we're a week away from the season starting, and he's talking about firing him and getting rid of him, and you're just postponing the agony. I think he used the word agony. Yeah. Chris put a story up about this earlier today on WolverineDigest.com. Go check it out. He's got the quotes and everything, a little bit of opinion there as well. But it's like, here's the deal, man. I've been really critical of Harbaugh, and I actually don't disagree with a lot of what he says about Harbaugh, but why the hell are you doing it right now? Yeah. He's clearly just trying to stir the pot and be a dick just to get the reaction and just to have people start talking about him again, because the season's a week away. Look, I thought Jim Harbaugh should have been fired after last year. The 2-4 season, the direction of the program, the way things have looked for a little while. I'm not super optimistic about what they might do this year, but now the season's here. You don't talk about getting rid of the coach right now. I was on that train when they were trying to figure out his extension, and then his salary got cut and they got rid of the buyout. But now it's like Paul, we get it. That's your shtick. You hate Harbaugh. You got a hard on for him, whatever the deal is, however you want to express it. It just it comes off cheap. And I don't know anybody who's buying that right now that this needs to be talked about right now. I thought it's a cheap shot, man. It is.
It is. And if you watch, well, let me go back. If you watch the interviews, he's on various shows and there are people asking him about Jim Harbaugh. So they're sort of, leading the horse to water, but I don't know, man. Like it doesn't, to me, whenever he gives his assessment of Jim Harbaugh, it doesn't feel like he's doing it as an analyst. Like it feels personal. Like it feels like there's something there. And you're right. A lot of the substance of what he's saying is true. That, to this point, I think most Michigan fans would agree that it has, failure is a harsh word, but I don't know what else to really put on it. You know what I mean? If you look at 0 trips to Indy, 0 wins over Ohio State, and you look at what he was brought here to do, in that sense, it has been a failure. But for some odd reason, I don't know. I think Finebaum's just one of those guys where, he likes to say he understands what he's doing and he wants to be relevant. And he knows that when he goes in on Jim Harbaugh, that it's going to be talked about in the media. And so in a way, I guess we're giving him exactly what he wants, but man, it's gotten to the point where it's like a weird obsession,
This fucking guy.
That's all it is. I mean, yes, it feels like a weird obsession. Pretty much everybody outside of I'm sorry, everybody has anything to do with Michigan, a fan, a media member covering the team, certainly people involved with the program, took offense to it. I don't know. I don't know if he's doing it to be offensive. It's just like it's weird, weird timing, and like what spurred that. I know you said he was asked about it. They were having a discussion about, I don't know, was it hot seat coaches or something along those lines?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. One of the shows asked them to, describe Jim Harbaugh using an emoji, and that was earlier in the week, and that was when he said, watching Jim Harbaugh makes me sick, and then he calls, later in the week he calls Jim Harbaugh a fraud, and I think, when you're talking about the results on the field, I mean, you and I were pretty much in lockstep with how we felt about the end of last year and kind of how we felt with the way things are going, but like as a person, I still find myself like, now that we know he's here, I'm still rooting for Jim Harbaugh to succeed. And I've said this before, I'm rooting for him to succeed because his success means Michigan succeeding. But at the same time, like, it's still okay to be critical of the job performance and to just call a spade a spade. But with Finebaum, it's just, like I said before, it's weird. It seems personal, and it doesn't seem like he's coming at it from an analyst standpoint. And I don't get what it is. I think it's just an old guy trying to remain relevant and stick within the news media. And like I said in the article, the season just started. I guarantee you that's not the last thing we hear from Finebaum.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's funny you mentioned. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned earlier. You said the word failure, or he used the word failure, and you were kind of quoting him or whatever. I tend to agree with what you said. Like, saying the word failure feels too harsh, but in the very next breath, I could say, well, he's pretty much failed to do all the big checklist items. So what is that?
Everything we thought he was going to do, right? The things that Michigan fans thought he would do.
If he was brought in to compete and beat Ohio State, to play in and win Big Ten titles and be in the playoff picture, he's failed.
Sure.
I mean, so when I hear someone say Jim Harbaugh is a failure, that sounds too harsh to me, even to me. And I've been really critical of what he's done. And I think, he's coming into year 7. We've talked about this before. If his name was John Johnson, the football head coach at Michigan, he'd have been canned 3 years ago. Yeah. I mean, we saw it. We saw it with the 2 coaches prior to him. Didn't get a leash like that at all. And I know it was pretty bad under Rich Rod, and it got kind of bad under Brady Hoke, but the point is, he's going into year 7. His contract was slashed. The season wasn't good last year. Things aren't looking. It's certainly not all rainbows right now heading into the season. I know the players are saying a lot of good things, and energy is high and confidence seems high. But if you look at what it really is and what things looked like last year and how some of the teams shake out this year and the schedule, and it's a tough schedule. And I don't know, we've talked about this a million times. I'm at 7-5, you're at 9-3. It doesn't take much to swing something in either direction. But the point is, I don't know what else you call Jim Harbaugh. Like I said, saying he's a failure seems way too harsh. But when you break down what he's succeeded at and what he's failed at, I don't know what else you can really say.
Here's where I think the distinction comes in, is that if you say it has been a failure to this point, then that I'm totally on board with. But when you call Jim Harbaugh as a person a failure, I just think the way that he paints the picture of what's going on at the University of Michigan or what's going on with Jim Harbaugh, there's clearly something behind the words that he uses. And like I said, it doesn't feel like it's an analyst. It feels personal.
Yeah.
Like an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend, in the way that you sort of talk about each other in passing after like a bad breakup, the way you talk about each other to your friends, it's just not normal.
Yeah, and it's one of these discussions we've had a bunch of times. There are different Harbaugh camps. There's no doubt about it. There's the diehard Harbaugh apologists who will say he's the best guy for the job. He always will be. He's the guy. Wouldn't want anybody else. Don't care what he's done. Look at his past. Look at it. Whatever. He's got 10 win seasons. There's that group, and then there's also the group who's even more harsh than you or I, who would like for him to be fired today and be gone, even though the season's right around the corner. I don't know. I think he was hired to do some things at a very high level. His contract reflected that, and he didn't do any of those things. And that's why his contract got cut in half, and that's why this year kind of feels like a make it or break it kind of season, even though last year was crazy. And I don't know. We'll see. He signed the extension. we all know those pieces of paper aren't worth as much as the Charmin in our bathrooms, but it is what it is. He is the Michigan coach right now, so talking about him being fired 8 days before the season kicks off is just taking a shot. I think it's taking a shot.
It's very Finebaum.
Yeah, we can agree on that. It's on brand for what Finebaum's all about. He seems to kind of crawl out from somewhere, take a shot at Harbaugh, see what happens, crawl back. I mean, I don't really know. I don't follow him, so I don't know like what kind of stuff is he saying about other coaches regularly, semi-regularly. I know he's an SEC slap. That's
I was going to ask you about that. Like, can you think of another analyst out there that goes after a coach the way that Finebaum repeatedly goes after Harbaugh? Like, I can't think of another example.
I can't think of an example like that, and I also don't know one way or the other. Is there another? Does he have another coach on his hit list? I mean, if you go back through the last 6-7 years,
Scott Frost, I think would be. It's not as repetitive, but he did bring up Scott Frost and kind of said, "Hey, basically the same thing I'm saying about Jim Harbaugh. Apply that to Scott Frost."
Yeah. So hey, like I said, I can't go through Finebaum's words and say he's wrong there, but I think the timing's absolutely wrong. That's where I'm at on what he said. Like I said, depending on what Harbaugh camp you're in, you probably have pretty strong feelings about it one way or the other. I don't know if I have strong feelings about it, but you're right. I mean, this is a big time, talking head at ESPN. It's not even the conference he covers. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, it seems very much like he wakes up Harbaugh like in the middle of the night, just terrified or I don't know, aggravated or agitated by anything he does. It is a little strange, but it is what it is. What's not strange, but does still suck, is the fact that Ohio State seems to be freaking killing it with NIL and Michigan still isn't. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for going on 2 months now. NIL stuff went live on July 1st. Michigan didn't really do a whole lot about it leading up to that point, hasn't done much about it since. I've been talking about it. I've been saying it. Some people didn't like that. Some people thought I was wrong. Michigan's doing tons. It's just behind the scenes. Just wait. And now, not long ago, you had Hunter Dickinson come out, speak publicly against the university and how difficult they're making it for athletes to do things. And now, there's respected insiders and people who donate to the program and people who are very involved and want to be more involved, saying that they can't get involved, that there's red tape, there's hurdles, there's rules being enforced that don't need to be there. It's the same thing I've been saying since July 1st. It's, I've gotten to learn a little bit more. What I was talking about back then was just what I was hearing from, different people around the athletic department and frankly, different student athletes who were just saying like, yeah, we really haven't heard anything. They haven't showed us this. We haven't done that. We haven't done this. And now earlier today, 5 players who figure to have a prominent role for Ohio State are all over social media with brand new vehicles. A couple weeks ago, it was Jack Sawyer, true freshman, hasn't even played a snap yet at Ohio State, got an $80,000 truck. Now you've got 5 guys who have played. CJ Stroud, the newly minted starting quarterback. He hasn't played a lot of football, but he's got a new ride and he's going to be bumping around Columbus in that thing. And everybody around the country is seeing that. So It's one of these things where Michigan needs to, I mean, I've said it a bunch. They could still do really good. They could. Like, the second they decide to go all in on this thing, they've got every resource possible to be one of the best programs in the country when it comes to NIL. But so far, nada. And that's a problem, man, because that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. And the schools who are willing to go all in are going to be championed for it, because it's I've seen a lot of Michigan fans on Twitter saying like, well, they've always been given cars. Now they just don't have to hide it. Well, cool. So freaking do the same thing and get on the level, because it is allowed now and you don't have to hide it. And I don't know, man. It just looks like Michigan is they were behind and now they're farther behind. That's what it feels like.
Well, a few things, because I think there's some confusion, when it comes to the NIL stuff, like Cade McNamara, the announcement that came out, a couple days ago about, cryptocurrency and the partnership that he developed there. And people are like, you see what's going on at the University of Michigan, but that
the kids are being super smart. Right, they're being smart. That
is not a University of Michigan led effort. right? And so I think people are getting that confused. But the other thing that I see on social media is that, people seem to just give Michigan the benefit of the doubt and act like there are big things happening behind the scenes and that Michigan is building some, NIL juggernaut. And I don't think that's the case. And I think you're right that, you know, here's the deal. Regardless of whether or not, the folks over at Michigan love the concept of NIL, whether they're against it, whatever the case is, it's happening. It's here. And there are programs and universities that are taking full advantage of it, like what's happening in Columbus, where you see, 4 players standing outside of a dealership rocking new cars. That stuff is happening. And so you're either going to get on board with it and you're going to give, your student athletes access to those same things, or you're going to get left behind. And that's really the way college football is going, is that you've just got to adapt to the way things are going to be. And it seems like for some odd reason, always at the University of Michigan, there is a reluctance to like step into the new era of college football, and they got to get on board with it.
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to see from afar. I just saw something else come across today. Kentucky basketball has some pretty big deal where every player, walk-ons included, are getting stuff. And this, to be very, very clear, this is not a Jim Harbaugh issue. This is not a Juwan Howard issue. This is not a Mel Pearson. This is not a Eric Bakich, the baseball. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They want this. They want to be able to take advantage of this. They want their people, their players, to be able to step out and post some of the same things we're seeing from some of these other universities, because that helps them. That makes their job easier to recruit. Come to Michigan. Look what being a part of Michigan with that block M on your chest can be and do for you and your family as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old college student. And that's what it should be. That's the kind of pitch they should be able to have. But so far, it's been a lot of, it's in legal. We've heard that shit before, right? It's in legal, and we got to figure some stuff out, and there's a little red tape, and we don't want to get in trouble. Like you're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube on this thing. Like, it's out, it's running, it's off to the races, and Michigan is still in the starting block checking their shoelaces, man, and that's a problem. And so, yeah, I mean, Michigan fans across social media and all over the place are making these jokes about, like, look at all the cheaters. They can just do it now. Well, that's hilarious, because they're better than Michigan, and they're going to be much better than Michigan unless something gets fixed. And, like I said, it's from above. It's the administration. It's the regents. It's the athletic department, President Schlissel. Maybe I can't speak to exactly what he thinks or says about NIL. I don't know, but we've heard a lot before. He's an academic guy. That's his wheelhouse. That's where he lives. So yeah, it just doesn't look good on the surface. I mean, think about it, man. If you were genuinely down to like Michigan and Ohio State, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to pick Ohio State right now, but like if you were down to them and all things were pretty much equal, which they're not, but they were, and then you've got NIL there, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of schools doing stuff like that.
I'm trying to put, I'm looking at it like for some odd reason, and this is just speculation, but I think Michigan is still clinging to that world-class education, world-class institution. You come here, like, we're going to set you up for life. And that's really good. And that's true. And that's real. Like a degree from the University of Michigan is going to set these kids up for life to go on, do things beyond football. But the problem is when on social media, you've got 4 Buckeyes, like I said, at dealership, rocking brand new vehicles. If I'm an 18-year-old 5-star recruit and I'm thinking like, man, like I want to go somewhere where I'm going to play for a championship. I want to go somewhere where NIL is going to benefit me the most, where I'm not going to struggle through my college years. You're going to be looking at these things. And again, I just don't get the reluctance of the University of Michigan to jump into it. This is where college football is now. It's not changing. And the longer you sort of drag your feet or try to like resist the change, the worse off you're going to be.
And I don't want to discount what you're saying, Chris, because I agree. A Michigan degree is special. Anybody who has one will tell you so. And you can look around the professional arenas around the country and around the world. They don't care. The recruits don't care. They don't care about that. They don't. And you can.
Well, I think some
do a little.
I would say some do that have maybe aspirations other than football later in life.
You know what most of them care about more? Money and
Money,
cars and cool shit and
money. I
NIL
mean,
stuff.
you're an
I mean,
18.
dude,
You remember what it was like to be 18?
man,
I kind of do. I mean,
it's a while ago
I'm
now.
like 20 years removed from that.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. But it just comes back, and this is where, now if you're not a fan of how I talk about things like this, or you think I'm full of it, like Hunter Dickinson said it. You don't need to hear anything about what I'm saying. He came out flat out, said Michigan's hard to work with. They're not like most other universities. He said they're treating us like the NCAA. That's what he said.
Right. And you know what? Here's what, at least for me, here's the worst part about it is that over the last, I don't know, 4 years, as fans, we sit here and talk about like why is there a gap between Michigan and Ohio State? And is it academics? What is it? How can we catch up? What can we do? And now you've got this NIL thing, and you've got a way to bridge the gap, or to at least attempt to bridge the gap. And you look at what the two programs are doing, and Ohio State is maximizing it and Michigan is not. And so it seems like where you could close the gap, it's even getting a little bit wider. And it's concerning as a fan on the outside looking in, that it was like, man, this is our shot to finally bridge that gap and get some big time players here who can capitalize on the Michigan brand, on the market. And there just hasn't been a lot out there that's garnered attention. I mean, with what Cade did, I think is great. With what Jordan Morant is doing, I think is great. But it's not enough. It's just not enough.
Yeah. It felt like that could be Michigan's magic bullet. It really did. You've got the South's got the geography, and that's where all the talent's located in. Well, this school you can do this, and this school's kind of got that. And look at recent success at places like Clemson and Alabama.
How can we compete with the
or
SEC?
Ohio State. Yeah,
And they've got the bag man. How can we compete with that? How can we possibly do that? Here you go.
Yep. No, I'm. It's frustrating because we know for a fact that people want to get involved, want to do more with NIL. The athletes want it, the coaches want it, and there's a faction of, the traditionalists at Michigan in positions of power that just aren't letting it happen, and that is a shame because the very thing that they care so much about is going to be tarnished and take a hit. I mean, take a big hit. And maybe in the pocketbook, and maybe that's what it'll finally take. I don't know. If you start seeing, Michigan Stadium with only 70,000 people in it, that'll wake some people up. You hope it doesn't get to that, but
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I don't know. We'll see. And we will see in a little over a week. We will be in there. We will be watching in person, which is I can't wait just to feel the buzz around Ann Arbor and the vibe inside the stadium and what it looks like in person. And 4 of the guys we're going to see were just named captains, man. You can't pick. I'll be completely honest. I don't know that much about Andrew Vistardis. I mean, he's a former walk-on. He's played quite a bit, but I wasn't a guy covered in recruiting as a walk-on. Don't know a lot about his background or his personality. But the other 3 guys, Aiden Hutchinson, Ronnie Bell, and Josh Ross, I know very well. Ross and Hutchinson, especially as local guys, I've known them since they were in probably 10th grade. I got to know him very well, got to know Aiden's family very well, and you can't pick any better captains than those 3 guys specifically. And also, obviously, Vistardis has the respect of his teammates as well. I just personally don't know as much about him. So thoughts on those 4 guys? We touched on this a little bit last night, but I mean, you've got obviously 3 and maybe 4 guys if Vistardis does earn a starting spot and play a lot of football in the O-line. 3 guys, though, for sure, in Hutchinson, Ross, and Bell, who are going to be instrumental to what Michigan does and on the field pretty much all the time.
Yeah, I was there in person when they announced it, and got to listen to all the guys talk after they came out and kind of share their thoughts on what it meant to be named captain by their peers. And I think they got it right. I mean, you look at the group of guys. They're guys that have been around for a while. They're high character guys, high moral guys. And you just kind of got the sense that when you're standing there during that press conference, that at the very least, this team has a true like core leadership. And I don't know that they've had that in years past. I mean, I think guys have tried to maybe step into that role and assume that role, but it definitely seems like going into this year that they've got leadership in spades on this team, and got even young guys like sophomore Blake Corum stepping into a leadership role and kind of helping the young guys along. I think they got it right with the captains, and I think a lot of the morale and chemistry and a lot of the positivity you see coming out of camp is a direct result of those 4 guys.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, like I said, Ross, he's a 2-time captain now, so this is nothing new to him. But I remember covering him as a recruit. I would assume he must have been committed to Michigan at the time, but people in and around Michigan's program were like, that the kid's a future captain. This is when he was in high school, not even on campus yet, not even wearing the maize and blue yet, and that's what they thought of him. That's the kind of character that he had. Older brother played there, Michigan kid through and through. So that's a no-brainer. And then Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, shoot, man, his entire family bleeds maize and blue. His dad was an All-American there. His mom went there. His sisters both went there. And one might still go there.
Do you think Aiden Hutchinson feels pressure to like procreate an All-American like future captain at the University of Michigan?
Probably, man. How could you not?
How
could you not? I mean, he also kind of like won the genetic lottery. Like Chris's father, his dad, not a huge guy, played D tackle at like 6'3", 250 or something.
Yeah.
They'll tell you about it. And when you stand next to him and talk to him now, you're like, dude, how are you an All-American defensive tackle? It's insane. I mean, he's a big dude. He's put together. He's still in really good shape. But like, I mean, defensive tackles don't look like that. So it's pretty crazy.
These days,
and then his mom is like a very average size small woman. It's like, and then there's Aiden, 6'7", 270. It's like, how the hell? A lot of height in on the Hutchinson side, though. I think his grandfather was maybe like 6'9" or 6'10". And Chris was the shortest of all of his brothers. So anyway, it's kind of crazy how that happened. But yeah, I mean, how could you not? Like, he's got to find another Michigan girl and then pump out some All-Americans, because
you gotta.
That's what it's that's what you do if you're Hutchinson, apparently. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and obviously must be just such an honor, such a cool thing for his dad and their family, the way that they all are all in for Michigan and have been for decades at this point. And then just Aiden, coming to Michigan, wearing his dad's number, and now is a captain as well. It's really cool, and everything we've heard about Aiden coming into his senior year and what he's hoping to accomplish in his new role in the defense. Yeah. You kind of think like it was meant to be, and could be the first, or I don't know if it's the first chapter of his senior year into what could be a really special season for him.
Yeah. I mean, I think he said at Big Ten Media Days, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, it just kind of feels like the stars are aligning.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you're sitting in his seat and you kind of look back and you look at what your dad did and you kind of look at where you're at and you look at the opportunity ahead of you in 2021, I mean, he's got to be just, amped up and ready to go. I mean, I feel it, I kind of feel the, like the jolt of energy, and like, I'm just ready for the season to come. And I know that, especially being at that press conference yesterday, that everybody's just tired of talking, man. The players are tired of meeting with guys like us and talking about energy and talking about Ohio State, and everybody's just ready to go.
Yeah, I put that article up this morning. You can definitely tell that Ross and Hutchinson are ready to go. You could feel it in Indianapolis. Now they've been named captains. It's only magnified, and they've both said something along those same lines. We don't want to talk anymore. We want to hit somebody in another color uniform and shut everybody up, shut up the doubters. And, we will see. And we have talked about this many, many times. The season opener against Western, I mean, you'd like that to be a beat down, but a win's a win. You'll take it, whatever you can get. And if I don't even want to say the other side of that, if a win would be a win there, but that week 2 game against Washington, man, if Michigan can win that and win it with some pizzazz and some style points,
look like they should win it.
You'll start really soaking in all these things these guys have said for the last couple months. But if the opposite happens, if they take a L, you're going to be like, what the hell was all that about? What was all that about? And so we'll see. I mean, we don't want to get to that until we get to the season opener against Western, which is coming in 8 days. Super excited about that, but we'll see where that comes in.
8 days away. I mean,
I
I
know,
feel like
man.
every time we do one of these, I was like, one of the last times we were on, I was like 75 days, 74 days, and then we're at the 40-day mark, and now here we're at 8 days. Like, it's just flying by.
Well, speaking of 8, number 8, Ronnie Bell, also a captain. Love the dude, man. I mean, talk about the kind of the Cinderella story. Was like a mid-level basketball commit, had 0 football offers despite being one of the best players in the was it St. Louis area or Kansas City area? I forget. Kansas City area. Basically like the high school version of the Heisman Trophy in that area. Some superstar players have won it before him. And he just shows up at Michigan, and now he's a captain, a leader, leads the team in receptions 2 years in a row. And you just love the kid, man, when you talk to him. He's not a big dude, but he fights and he scraps. And, if he catches the ball at the 5-yard mark, he's going to get another 3 or 4, even though he's not very big.
Yeah.
Blocking downfield, breaking tackles, tough as nails. And you saw the emotion a couple seasons ago with the drop pass against Penn State. You just can't help but pull for a kid like that, man. And to see him named a captain again, when you think about where he came from, it's awesome. It's just got to be such a cool thing for him to kind of put a bow on his Michigan career with that honor.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. He comes to Michigan. He's not a highly rated football recruit, and he puts in the work, he puts in the time. And now senior year, he's going into the new season as a captain. And there's not really much to say about it. It's a great story. He's a great kid, great character kid. And I think you and I have talked about this before, but it's just interesting that he is such an impactful player at the University of Michigan, like arguably their top receiver, and you just don't hear anything about him. And that's kind of his entire career in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I don't remember how long ago it was now, but we were talking about the receiver group and who we were looking for plays from, and we didn't even mention his name. Yeah. Didn't even say his name. Yeah. Oh, he's a captain. He's probably going to lead the team in catches by double digits and just get the job done every time. And it's crazy because he was good from day one. Like, he played as a freshman, even though he wasn't a big time recruit and wasn't even looking like a college football player at one point of his senior year. In fact, I think he had to wait. I'm pretty sure he had to wait until the February signing day to sign with Michigan because he had already signed his letter of intent to play basketball at whatever Southwest Missouri or what. I can't even remember what school it was. But just an incredible story, man. And, props to him. Certainly deserving. I mean, there's not one guy on this list where you're like, I think someone else could have maybe got they're almost no-brainers. And again, I can't speak a whole lot to Vistardis. Didn't know a lot about him as a recruit. He played last year, but he didn't play much at all before that. Last year was a weird year, and there was guys hurt all over the place on the O-line. So you kind of wonder what that looked like last year. But now he's there. Now he's a captain. He's fighting for the starting center job. Did he talk? Was he one of the guys that spoke? Okay.
Yeah, he did.
What did he talk about?
I was going to say when, I didn't know much about him either, but when you listen to him talk and when you're around him, you can see why he would have been voted as a captain. I mean, he's very articulate. He seems like, again, another one of those just high character guys. There were a lot of people that talked about, that he doesn't just do things right on the football field, but he's a leader and does things right off the football field. And so, yeah, I was down there listening to him speak. I can see why he was made a captain.
Call him V. We'll see what happens. I mean, let me ask you this. The fact that he's named a captain, does that make you think he's going to start?
Yeah. I mean, I have a hard time, he was talking about how him and Kate are, getting the, the snaps right and the timing right and always working on that. And I can't imagine that. Him being named captain wouldn't mean that he would be starting on that offensive line. But then again, you never know.
Yeah, he's battling there with Zinner, and then if you move Zinner to center, then you got to shift Stuber, and you got some other battles. So I get it, putting him at center, letting him play the position, if it really is a close battle, kind of gets those other guys into some more natural spots. You've got Zinner at guard, then you keep Stuber at tackle. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, That was my first thought. Not that he wasn't deserving. Not that I was like, I don't even know anything about him. Why is he being named a captain? But I thought, like, well, that probably means he's playing.
Right.
Maybe not, though. I mean, if it's coming from his teammates, I mean, they know who's in. They know who's taking reps with the ones. They know who's holding down which spots. They see it every day. The defensive guys are going against them. The offensive guys are battling with them. I don't know. It kind of seems like a hint, but who knows, man? Maybe Zinner takes that spot.
I don't know if it was him or one of the other guys that spoke that day, but I do believe I recall somebody referencing, that he was the spiritual leader of the team. And so whether or not he ends up starting, it does sound like his presence on the roster is a big deal for the guys around him, and they sort of gravitate to him and they view him as a leader. So like I said, I don't know if that means he's going to be starting in the offensive line, but he's certainly a leader in that locker room.
Let's talk about the O-line as a whole real quick. I just kind of mentioned how we're trying to figure out, who's starting where, the left guard spot being battled for, left tackle, right tackle, and Zinter at right guard is pretty much locked in unless Zinter bumps down to center. But those three guys, Hayes, Zinter, Stuber, they're in. They're three of the top five. The other two spots being battled for by, Trevor Keegan, Chuck Filiaga at left guard. And then Vistardis factoring in there at center. And then if you bump him in, then you've got maybe Carson Barnhart or Trente Jones. So we've heard, somewhere between 9 and 10 names. I asked this question at one of the media availabilities. Like, that seems like a good problem. You've got depth. You've got some versatile guys. But if I was the O-line coach, I'd want 5 no-brainers. There's my 5. They're kicking ass. They're better than anybody else I got. That's my starting 5. And I've said I love Sharon Moore as a coach, think he's really, really good at everything he does, but he has never coached O-line before, and you got rid of a really good one in Ed Warner. For whatever reason, I never looked back on Ed Warner at Michigan and thought, man, his O-line sucked. I never thought that. Thought that about Don Brown's defense a time or two, So I'm really curious to see how that shakes out. I guess, how concerned are you that and maybe they do have it now. I mean, we're a week out. Maybe they've got it and it just hasn't been announced. But how concerned are you that it's kind of played out that way and that it does seem to be like kind of a work in progress at this point with a new coach?
I'm not any more concerned about that than I am about any other position group, maybe outside of the running backs. Like, I'm not concerned about that at all, but I view them as just a big question mark. I know that they've got some known commodities on the offensive line, but obviously you would love to go into a new season and have all your starting spots filled and know who you've got where and kind of know what pieces you're going to move around. But for this offseason and for heading into this new season, like for me, Nakai Hill-Green, the fact that he worked himself into a starting spot and that Hilo came out and said, like, yeah, he's earned that right to call himself a starter and to be out there week 1. I love that, man. I love that they're letting guys compete and that, they're going to say, if you're the best guy, you're going to play. So would I love for there to be like a solid starting 5? Yes, but I think the guys that are competing for the remaining spots, I think they're only going to be stronger for it, hopefully.
Starting offensive line next Saturday, go.
I have no idea.
No idea. Won't even
venture
a guess.
Won't even venture a guess.
Great stuff from Chris Breiler. Have a good evening, everybody.
How about this? I will put Zinner out there. I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be at a center position, guard position, tackle. I don't know where he's going to be, but Zinner will be out there.
Oh, good God.
How's that?
I thought I was giving you a good one there. All right, I'll go Hayes, left tackle. I'll go Keegan, left guard. I'll go V, center. I'll go Zinter, right guard. I'll go Stuber, right tackle. That's who I'll trot out there for my starting offensive line. Yeah, I think the fact that he's been named a captain, which means he's doing well at his job. He's leading by example. He's got the attention of his teammates. I think it's telling. Will it be that way all year? Maybe not. But Zinter he's a guard. I mean, like, you kind of pick up on those little things when they're like, yeah, Zinter can play some center. That means he's not a center. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's played there, he's done it. He did it some in high school, but he played right guard last year. That's where he's been at. And to me, that's why. And then if you start, okay, if Stuber's your right tackle, but then you got to move him. If you move Zinter, now you're shifting pieces, and that means people aren't in their most natural spot. So I'll say Vistardis at center. keep Zinner at right guard and keep Stuber out there at right tackle. So that's what I'll say. Hayes,
Solid.
Keegan, Vistardis, Zinner, Stuber. There you go. That's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, how do you feel about that group? Strong group?
I actually feel pretty good in terms of, their size. That's a big line, man. All those guys are Stuber, Zinner, Keegan are north of 320. Hayes is probably about 310. Vistardis might be the smallest of the bunch, which is, I think, okay at center, but not by a lot. I think he's north of 3 bills too. So I like the size. If you're talking about being able to move these guys around, then they're versatile. They've got some athleticism. Hayes is super athletic at left tackle. Zinner, we've heard the praise about him. Best player on the damn team, apparently. Stuber's played a lot of football. He plays a couple different spots. Keegan, another big athlete, a kid I saw a couple times in high school. So I like it. But again, you got a new coach. You've got a gel. You've got an unproven quarterback. I don't know, man. On paper, I like how it looks, but to get punched in the mouth or something by Washington week 2, we'll find out. We'll find out a lot about that group. I don't know. Would you change anybody? I mean, what do you think when I rattle that 5 off?
No, I mean, I think that's a solid starting 5. I just maybe
Filiaga at left guard.
Maybe,
I don't know, man.
Maybe I don't know. There's so.
I feel like if it hasn't clicked for him, it's just kind of like, here's the next guy. It's Keegan.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I think the guys that you listed off probably going to be the starters. There may be some movement around the offensive line a little bit, but generally speaking, I think those are going to be the guys, and then the rest are just going to sort of fill in where they can.
Yep, there you have it. Shout out to the captains. Shout out to the captains. I think that's cool. Obviously, captain at Michigan is a big deal. It always has been. So props to those 4 guys, and we'll see what that looks like on the field. All right, let's shift into our over-under segment. Chris, I don't even know if I've talked to you about this, but this is something that we are going to do every week for the specific game of that week. So it'll, however Michigan's looking leading up to it, over under things we think are going to happen. Today, on Friday, as we close out the week, we're going to do kind of a big picture, larger scope, season type of over-under deals. We're going to go back and forth just like we did before. If you forget you're after me, then I'm after you, then you're after me. There are only 2 of us. That's how it will go.
So don't zone out is what you're saying. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we did it last time too. We might have a repeat. But
given the way things have gone thus far, I'm certain we've got some of the same things on here.
And I moved the goalpost just a tad. I don't know. Depending on how I word it, it could be a true over-under. But I kind of we'll go. We'll just get into it. And here we go. I'll go first. I will go first. Little music build in the background.
Let's see.
Put my hands together. Get it hot. Here we go. Cade McNamara. Over, under 22.5 touchdown passes. Just for a frame of reference, Shea Patterson's best year was 23. The most ever at Michigan was 25.
We're on the same page here. I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under 22.
Man, that's just such a small number. Like something like 58 quarterbacks threw more touchdowns than that last year.
I know, but look at when you go back and you look at what Michigan quarterbacks are doing.
I know. I'm going to look that number up actually real quick. Just very, very quick. Passing touchdowns in 2020. Oh, well, okay, let me back up. 2019. Can't really do it in 2020 because there just weren't enough games. Okay, my number was a little inflated. 30. No, it wasn't. 48 quarterbacks threw 23 or more touchdowns in a season in 2019. Almost half the country.
Well, and you know what the sad part about it is? Look at the receivers that have come through the University of Michigan and tell me how you're not getting more than 22 touchdown passes in a year. But until I see a Michigan quarterback ball out, I'm going to go under.
All right, there you go. I think I have to too. It just sounds like, geez, man, in 12, 13 games, you can't throw 23 touchdowns,
which
25,
concerns
28.
me because I don't know how we get to 9 wins with only 22 touchdown passes, but maybe that means the running back room, but maybe that leads into this next one here. So
what you got?
Brandon, Blake Corum, over under 1,000 all-purpose yards.
Oh, you threw the all-purpose in there. I think I'll still say under, but not by much, because it's really close, because I think I have him pegged at about 600-700 yards rushing, splitting carries with Hassan Haskins and giving way to Donovan Edwards here or there, and about 200 or 300 yards receiving. If he's on the field as much as I think he could or should be, that would put him in that 850, 950. I don't know. I put him under, but just slightly, and that's that. I still think that would be a good year for him in year 2.
Yeah, and I'm going to put him over, but just slightly. And, we're not sure how they're going to use the running back room, but I've heard his name mentioned in special teams. I know that he can catch the ball coming out of the backfield. And then obviously we've seen the talent and what he can do on the ground. And so when I look at all-purpose yards and everything put together, I think he can get to that number. I hope he gets to that number. I would love to see somebody in the running back room get to that number. I think Blake Corum's got the best shot.
That's a good spot. That's a good spot to be thinking about. And I think if you asked 100 Michigan fans, you'd probably get a split of, I don't know if it would be 50-50, but I think some people would be like, oh, yeah, for sure. And, knock on wood, you never want, but injuries happen in the backfield. If he somehow becomes the guy, like he's getting 80% of the totes, then obviously that would move the mark a little bit, but we'll see. All right. This one here's one of my not quite a over under. I guess I could just word it slightly differently, but yes or no, Aiden Hutchinson double-digit sacks. His pops had 11, by the way, back in the day in the season. Multiple players at Michigan have had 10 or more sacks in a season, but it's been a lot of the studs. Lamar Woodley, Brandon Graham.
I'm going to say no, and I think that's because every team is going to pay extra attention to him. And I think that they're going to do everything they can to keep him away from the quarterback. Obviously, we don't know what the new defensive scheme is going to look like. I anticipate he's going to be more active and have more opportunities. But I just think given who he is and how well known he is on this defense, I think people are going to scheme for him. And I think it's going to make it difficult. So I'm going to say under.
It's a lot. That's a lot, man. In 2019 – only 19 players had 10 or more sacks. So that's.
But he's, what the thing is, though? Like, we got to start looking. Like, Aiden Hutchinson is a guy who can get that.
Sure.
And maybe go as far as to say should get that.
Yeah.
So, when you look at. I mean, man, Aiden Hutchinson is one of the top players in the country returning. So I would think it's fair to expect that of him. I know it seems like a lot, but again, I'll stick with the under just because I think people are going to scheme for him.
In Don Brown's defense, he was not getting that. He was doing too much anchoring. He was not even asked to really get after the quarterback as much as he should have been. In Mike McDonald's defense, that's supposed to change. So we'll see. His dad's mark was 11. I remember we were at an event one time. We were sitting up there. It was when I was on the radio with Mike Spath, and Chris Hutchinson was like the guest of honor that night, and then just dumbass me and Mike sitting up there with him. Like, we're taking questions from the audience, not one to either of us, obviously. But it was really funny. Chris was telling us how Aiden, after this would have either been after his freshman or sophomore season, I can't remember, said to his dad, like, how the hell did you get 11 sacks in a season? Like, it's hard, man. It's really hard to get that kind of those kind of numbers. Chase Young in 2019 led the entire country with 16 and a half. He was the number 2 pick in the draft. So there you go. It's a hard number to get to, man, but he's capable, but it's tricky. And we both said the under on that one, or just shy of that. All right, you're up.
All right, here we go. Did we settle on a name for Cade McNamara? Is it Cade the Snake?
Like Cade the Snake, I guess.
I don't know why I keep going back to that. I think it's Jake Plummer. Jake Plummer was in Arizona. There's sand in Arizona. There's sand in Nevada.
Cade McNamara?
He's a dog.
He's a dog.
All right,
we'll just leave
what
it
you
at
got?
that. So over under for Cade McNamara on the season, 2,600 passing yards. And the reason I picked 2,600 passing yards was because Shea Patterson, I think, had just over 2,600 passing yards in 2018, and that put him single season on the top 10 Michigan list all time. So is Cade McNamara on the Michigan top 10 single season list all time by the end of the year? 2,600.
I mean, I come back to, like, Michigan is. That's why I wanted to fact check myself before I said it. Michigan has only had 3,000 yard passers ever. So obviously, if he's going north of 2,600, he's getting into that. I mean, that's one good game away, essentially. I find myself answering this kind of the same way you did. Like, if you think they're winning 9 games, he's going to have to throw for that much. I have him at 7. I'll say no. I think under. I think in that ballpark, 2,400, 2,500, but shy of 2,600. 2,600 yards would put him at number 8 all time. Shea Patterson was 2,600 on the dot in 2018. Tom Brady, 2,636. Jim Harbaugh, 2,729 yards.
But I think Rudock is up there, right?
Jake Rudock is one of the 3,000-yard passers. He threw for 3,017 yards.
So it's not
in his
like,
lone
I mean,
season with the
you
Wolverines.
look at who Jake Rudock is. It's not like we're asking Cade McNamara to be a superstar by getting to that number. But for me personally, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to go under only because I just haven't seen a passing attack at the University of Michigan that lives up to the expectation. I mean, even look at the roster right now and how many receivers. They don't have like that one stud. Like they don't have a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy or anybody like that, but they've got about 6 or 7 guys who are all equal as far as I'm concerned, who when they get the ball in their hands, if you throw like a 5-yard out or whatever, they can easily turn that into an 80-yard touchdown. So I would love to see Michigan maximize the passing game and kind of air it out and utilize those guys. But until I see it happen, I just, I don't think Cade's going to get there. It would put him in the top 10. It would be great to see, but I don't think it's going to happen.
That's an interesting way to look at that. I mean, we were pretty, we praised Ronnie Bell quite a bit for his ability and also how he does things, how he approaches everything. But there's really not one receiver on Michigan's roster where you say nobody can check that guy.
Yeah,
they don't have that guy. They don't.
They've been saying it's Cornelius coming out of fall and coming out of spring, and it might be him, but it hasn't been him on the football. Like on Saturdays, it might be him in spring and in summer and in fall. But we'll see what happens in the fall or in the summer.
Here we go. Over under 78th overall total defense in the country. Will Michigan's defense be over or under 78th overall? Offense, I said defense. 78th overall in the country, total offense, over under. So 77th or better, 78th, 79th or worse.
So
the offense.
So under would be better in this situation, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to take the under because, they cannot be worse than half of college football.
They can't?
No, they can't. They can't without heads rolling. They certainly can. But to me, given where things are, they cannot be in the bottom half of college football in offense or defense for that matter. So I'm going to take the under just based on who they are. I mean, it's the University of Michigan. You should never be in the bottom half of college football in any statistic.
You
slurping. What? Should you look?
I don't disagree.
Right. In any category, should there be, 50 teams out there better than Michigan? No.
Nope. I can't argue. God, they gotta be freaking better than that. 78th? That's terrible. That's bad.
That's almost in the bottom third. I think that might be the bottom third.
Year 3, Josh Gaddis, get it figured out. Put guys in a position to succeed. Get those guys out in some open space. Let them create. Use that stable of running backs. Man, 78th, dude. Gotta be better than that. Gotta be.
Yep.
I'll say they'll be better. Maybe not by a lot, but they'll be better than 78th overall.
All right, so we've spent some time talking about Ronnie Bell, and I went back and looked at his numbers. And so in 2020, he had 26 receptions. Obviously, the season was shortened. In 2019, he had 48 receptions, which is his best year to date. So for 2021, over under Ronnie Bell 48 receptions.
Over. I think that's a no-brainer for me. I think he's going to be well north of 50 catches.
So it's going to be his best season to date, catch-wise.
Yeah, I think so. He's a senior. He's a captain. He knows he has to show out. He knows he has to set the example. He has to be a safety, a safety blanket for safety net, whatever you want to call it, for his quarterback who's going to be getting broken in and kind of working their way into things. And he's built for a lot of catches. He's not a burner deep threat kind of guy. He's not a red zone specialist. He's an every down, move the sticks, come across the middle, hit somebody with a double move here and there and get some. I just think
you need 4 yards, you need 5
Yeah,
yards.
I think he's built for that. I think he's built for a lot of catches. If you're playing 12 or 13 games, you don't have to catch that many balls to go north of 48. So I will say over, and probably pretty easily. Wouldn't surprise me to see him catch 60 balls this year.
Yeah, I mean, I almost kind of put him in the same category as like a Jeremy Gallon, like not the most hyped guy that's out there, but just super productive. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get to 48 just because I think they've got so many weapons out there for wide receiver. You're talking about Andrew, you're talking about Mike Sainristil, you're talking about Cornelius. I mean, there's a lot of guys. AJ Henning factors to be, a part of this offense. I just think there's going to be so many weapons out there for Cade McNamara, whoever the quarterback ends up being throughout the season, that for me, it's going to be hard for me to see Ronnie Bell get over that 48 mark. But if he does, it's good things.
That's interesting because to me that was like a no-brainer. I thought you were going to say like 48 was his high and then go even higher for the over-under. But okay.
I mean, I was looking back. I think it was either Darbo or Chesson during the Harbaugh era. The highest was like 62 or 63 receptions, and I think it was Darbo, 63 receptions in 2016, maybe.
I was going to say 66 wouldn't even put you in the top 10 all time at Michigan. So. Yeah.
I mean, Braylon, number one with 97
catches. Holy shnikes. All right. That was back when it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust almost, too. So that's obviously pretty impressive. All right. I'm going to reword this question because it just got a little confusing last time. Better or worse? So not quite over under. Better or worse? 84th in the country, total defense.
Better. It has to be better.
That's by the way, that 84th overall is where Michigan was last year.
Right. If Mike McDonald and George Hilo and Steve Klinkscale, if that group of guys and is it Ron Bellamy, right? He's working with the safeties.
Yep.
If that group of guys, I mean, that was what Harbaugh reloaded on this offseason. It's his defensive coaching staff that he really put all of his weight behind. And so if there's not a significant increase in how productive the defense is, then there's going to be a big problem. Again, I go back to what I said before. Even if you're bringing in new coaches, like take any big time program, Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. I mean, you can go down the list. Even in a transition-ish type year, you don't see them fall in the bottom third or bottom quarter of college football. And so for me, I hope Harbaugh's done his homework. He's brought in the right people, and I would say that
damn near getting to the bottom fifth, by the way, at number 84.
There you go. So I will say that they will be in the top half of college football in 2020, which is not asking a lot.
I think better. I think you limit the big plays even a little bit compared to what Don Brown did in that stubborn man defense last year. Very predictable, and when Michigan doesn't have NFL talent at cornerback, like, he did before with David Long and Jordan Lewis. Yeah, you can't ask those guys to do that every single play. And then when you're not getting a lot of pressure up front and your pass rushers are injured, and it was a bad formula. So I'm with you. I've been pretty consistent with me saying, like, I don't know how you can just assume Mike McDonald's going to be really good since he's never done it before, but we've heard really good things about him and about how he approaches everything and the multiple looks. I think that's important. I think you have to have that in today's college football. And if they have that, they still do have talented players. I agree. I think it will be better than 84th. I don't know if it's going to be like, a top 20 unit like we've seen, in the first couple of years under Don Brown, but God, it's got to be better than 84th. That's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. They're certainly capable. They've got the talent to be a top 20 defense. But I think if you look back at the Don Brown era as a Michigan football fan, how much time did you spend screaming at your TV, like, make an adjustment, do something different? And it sounds like we're going to have some of that now in Ann Arbor. So if nothing else, if all things are equal, And the only thing that changes is the ability to adjust and adapt. Michigan will be better defensively. So that's where I'm at.
There you go. There you go. Am I finishing us out here? Did you start or did I start? I forget.
No, I've still got two left. Yeah,
I've only got one left. So it's your turn.
So
it's
that
your
makes
turn. That's
sense.
right.
All
That
right.
was my question right there. Okay.
So we'll
Sorry
go
about that.
for the season, and I'm sure that this is one that probably you and I are the same, or we have the same question on. But we'll go points per game. And I went back.
I don't have that.
You don't have that. Okay, so I went back and looked at the last 3 years. You ready? So in 2018, Michigan averaged 35.2 points per game. In 2019, 31.7 points per game. And in 2020, they averaged 28.3 points per game. So for 2021, I'm setting the over-under at 31 points per game.
I think it's going to be under. I think it's going to be under because
That's
just
bad.
unproven.
That's bad news.
In a lot of areas, unproven QB. That's the battery that makes everything go. I don't think Cade McNamara is a world beater. I think he can be very good. The O-line has to come together. A new coach there. Wide receivers who are fast and talented but haven't produced a lot. They're going to have to. And a really good running back room that is dependent on the O-line and dependent on everything to kind of work together. And even as high as I am on Blake Corum, I think he could be one of the best backs in the country. He hasn't done a lot either. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's a true sophomore who didn't carry it that much last year. So I think it's less than that. I think it's less than 31 points a game. I do.
You know what's shitty is that I think it's less too, but I'm hoping it's more.
Yeah, man.
But I just here's the problem I have. If you're less than 31 points a game, like in today's college football, you got to score. You got to be able to score the ball and get in the end zone. If we had like a 2016 defense under 31 points a game, I wouldn't be as concerned about it. But I do think Michigan is going to be under 31 points per game on average. And that's concerning, man, because I've got them at 9-3, but I don't know how you get there when you're averaging 31 points a game.
Or less than that. Yeah, last year was 28.3. That was 66th in the country, man. Yeah. Again, we're talking bottom halfers. That's the theme of the season last year, man. Bottom halfers across the board in just about every important statistical category. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't be bottom half, bottom third in offense, defense, scoring, forcing turnovers, all that, and be surprised by a 2-4 record. I mean, that's what you get when you rank those in those places across the country. All right. I mean, this is kind of a layup because we've talked about this a lot, but we're going into game week now. We've talked to all the coaches. We've seen a bunch of the players. You're slurping like a Hoover. And this isn't just talking
at this point.
Jeez Louise. Let me throw the clip out there. This is not just talking for a podcast. This is put your money up, bro. Put it up. Okay. Put it up. Put a stack up. Okay. Over under 7.5 wins. That's where the line is set in Vegas.
All right. You know what? Let's finish this then because we're at the same question. That's the same question. I've got over under at 7 games.
Okay. Well,
7 wins.
You got to do a half because then you don't have
all right.
to
So we'll do 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously taking the over. I'm taking the over because I've gone through the schedule. If they win the games they should win, and they split the games that are kind of like toss-ups, then you get to 9 wins, and I just think that's where they're going to be.
What do you mean by that? Define should win.
Well, okay, so Northwestern is a game Michigan should win. Michigan State is a game Michigan should win. Indiana is a game Michigan should win. Basically, all of these schools that Michigan year in and year out recruits, that Michigan's got more resources, that Michigan just is in a better place than they are. I view it as that is a team that the University of Michigan should be beating on a regular basis.
I hate this question, and it's my own damn question because when I look at the schedule, and we've done this, I got them at 7-5. I feel the lowest level of comfort I can imagine by putting any amount of money on that number. I wouldn't do it. There's so much I don't know about what this. So I'll say under because that's when I look at the schedule. I have them at 7-5. I wouldn't want to put $1 on that bet. No. I wouldn't. And if someone said you got to put money up, I'd go for the lowest amount possible.
Ask
because
me after week 2.
Yeah, seriously, because there's too much unknown. It's not about like, oh, you think they're going to go 7-5, then put it up. How do you know? How can you
Right.
possibly really know?
Well, and think
aside
about
from just looking at how it looked last year and looking at how they did against those same teams last year.
right. And if you look at like where you and I are at, how different is the perception of just those 2 games? 7-5 versus 9-3. That's like at 7-5, we're talking about once again, we're right back in the offseason talking about whether or not Jim Harbaugh is going to return. I think he does at 7-5, but at 9-3, I think we're singing a different tune. I think at 9-3, people are now okay. You know what? This is a question that I've been wanting to ask you because we talk about all this shit. We talk about Washington and Wisconsin and all these games. Does any of it really matter if they don't beat Ohio State? I mean, if they go 11-1 and they lose to Ohio State, and I know people like to make that. I know people like to make the comparison. Like if they only beat Ohio State, I'll be happy. But I mean, is there really any scenario where this season is viewed as a success if they don't beat Ohio State?
You want my true answer to that question?
Yeah.
Exactly where my head went when you started asking it. I think those other games matter a ton because I don't even view Ohio State as remotely winnable. It's not even possible. I can't envision a scenario where Michigan beats them right now, where the 2 programs are, the talent level, the execution, how it's looked, home, away.
Yep.
Dude, they would have lost by 70 freaking points.
I was going to say the last 2 meetings have been historic losses for Michigan. So it's not like you're off track or you're off base with what you're thinking there.
So to answer your question, I think the other games matter a whole hell of a lot because to me that November that closeout game in November is already determined. I mean, I hate saying that, but how can you possibly look at the 2 programs right now and say, you know what, Michigan's got a shot?
I think maybe because you look at the quarterback situation, and I know that
CJ Stroud going to be awesome.
I know.
I'll say it right now.
I know he's going to be good, but there is inexperience there, right? So if there is a window of opportunity for Michigan, this might be the best window of opportunity since 2016. They've got some changes, they've got some concerns at certain positions, but again, Ohio State is loaded. There's not going to be any issue with Ohio State producing talent and being good on the football field. But for me, I do think it comes down to that. I just don't see any scenario. And maybe it's because when the game takes place, it's the last game of the year. It's the last thing that people think about going into the offseason. You've got to spend all those damn months just with that sour taste in your mouth, that bad taste in your mouth. And so, man, we've talked about it before. No other coach has started 0-5 against Ohio State. Mm-hmm. If we get to a point where we're 0-6 against Ohio State, I almost feel like that should be drawn in the contract, man. Like you cannot. I don't know what the number is, what it has to be, but I do know that 0-6 against Ohio State has to be a fireable offense, right? It has to be.
Man,
if you're coaching at the University of Michigan and you go 0-6 to start your career against Ohio State, you got to go. You got to get
What's
out.
What's the equivalent of like in another job? Like you work at Taco Bell, but you can't make a taco. is that the same kind of thing?
You can't make the supreme. I mean,
I'm good on the nachos. I got a burrito hooked up. Tacos, can't do it. Can't do it.
I think it's like maybe if it's like you work at Taco Bell and you're trying to do better in sales than McDonald's on a weekend. And McDonald's is going to kill it on the weekend, right? They kill it every weekend.
That's way too nice, dude.
They got breakfast, they got lunch, they got dinner. They're open all hours of the night.
Big fan of Taco Bell's breakfast, by the way. This guy right here.
I've never had it.
CJ Stroud over under 22.5 touchdown passes.
Over.
Is that piss you off?
It's not even a question. I mean, what was it that Haskins had a couple years back?
Like 52 or something.
Right. So it's like we just haven't. I can't tell you how refreshing it would be for this fan base to just watch a Michigan quarterback go out and dominate and sling the ball over the field. And there's no reason why we can't have that. I mean, outside of Denard Robinson, and his athleticism and the excitement that he brought. We just haven't had that in 2 decades. We haven't had like that dude at that position. So and even Herb Street, when he was talking about the University of Michigan or talking about Michigan and Harbaugh and the football program and the current state of everything, he said the same thing. He said he looked at the running back group. He's like, name the last dude like Anthony Thomas that the University of Michigan has had. They haven't had a dude at the running back position, and they haven't had a dude at the quarterback position in a really, really, really long time. And I just don't get how that happens.
50 touchdowns for Dwayne Haskins, by the way, 2018. Yeah. I mean, that's a number, bro.
We got quarterbacks that are putting out 17 and 18. You're not going to compete.
Yeah, can't do it. Well, there you go. There's our over-under, folks. Hope everybody likes that.
Did we leave everybody on a positive note here? Because I feel like that was kind of bleak.
I mean, we're about to talk about a couple other things to wrap us up real quick. We will do this every week as well. Big Ten, big game. Big Ten, big lame. Another section of the pod that we're going to have every year. Don't really have that this weekend because there's only one Big Ten game, but Nebraska is favored by 6.5 over Illinois. I'm intrigued by this game, man. I mean, Scott Frost's ass is on fire. Burning up.
Is Scott Frost in anybody's good graces right now? I think
burning
he's pissed
up,
off
dude.
Just about everybody.
I mean, he's pissing people off. He's losing games. He's cheating and still blowing. I mean, like, I don't know what that guguy like. They're favored. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Bielema came in there and rolled them.
Finebaum put Harbaugh and Frost in the same.
No,
they're not. Like if you.
But
really
he hasn't even had a winning season.
Right.
Come on,
I was going to say, if you want to see what a disaster looks like, it's what's happening with Scott Frost. It's not what's happening with Jim Harbaugh. Now, granted, he hasn't lived up to expectations, but it has. I wouldn't call Harbaugh's tenure a disaster.
And man, was I wrong about Scott Frost, because I thought that dude was.
I mean, look at what he did at UCF.
I thought he was the bee's knees leaving there, dude, and I thought he was going to kill it at Nebraska. It is hard to recruit there. It is, but he was beating teams, into a pulp at Central Florida, and with some good players, but not great players. I mean, UCF's not recruiting 5-star guys.
Right.
So I thought I was wrong about him, and he has been bad. But they're favored 6.5 against Illinois tomorrow. What do you got? I mean, what do you think there? Again, we're all guessing and speculating at this point, having not seen anything yet.
We got Taylor Martinez versus Brandon Peters. I didn't even Brandon Peters. There's so many Michigan transfers out there that I just feel like there's
Brandon Peters celebrates his 30th birthday on Sunday, but will go play. I'm kidding, but this is his 6th year. It's his 6th year there. It's crazy.
His 3 children will be on the sideline.
Yeah, man, cheering daddy on.
I'm still going to take Nebraska. I think
to cover or to win. 6.5.
I'm going to take Nebraska not just to cover. I'm going to take them to win.
Okay. I think. Did you say that backwards?
Or no, wait, no. Okay, so they're favored to win.
Correct. By 6.5. So will they win by 7 or more?
They'll cover. I think they'll cover. Illinois has just been so bad for so long. And I know that, Bielema, he's he's been around for a while. He's a solid coach, but man, I just think Illinois just seems like one of those programs where I don't know. To me, we're talking about a program like Michigan trying to get to the top. If you're talking about Illinois, they're
gone are the days.
They're down there with Rutgers.
Gone are the days of Juice Williams. Let's put it that way. Remember
Juice
that,
Williams,
dude?
Shieldhouse.
Yeah,
Shieldhouse. Remember that? I remember all that. All those games. But
you know who won that game last year though? Illinois. Illinois beat Nebraska last year.
They did. It was.
So there you go. All right, and then we'll close it out with Hawaii at UCLA. And UCLA is favored big, 17.5. Another Michigan transfer, former Wolverine Zach Charbonnet, battling kind of in a 1A 1B scenario. Gonna touch it. He's gonna carry the ball, but not like the bell cow starter. So a little intrigue there as well. It's on mid-afternoon, I think you said, right? Middle of the day.
3:30.
So I mean, I'm just pumped.
You said
17.5. That's a big number.
Yeah, I'll take the under. Only because it's week 1. But yeah, for Michigan fans, and I put this out a little bit earlier today on the Facebook page. I mean, the fact that college football is back tomorrow,
Pump, dude. Can't wait.
I mean, you're going to wake up and watch College Game Day. You're going to hear that music. Like it's finally that time.
Just caught a cramp in my leg. I got so excited about it, dude.
Yeah. You know what? There's games on tomorrow that I think Michigan fans will have interest in. Obviously, the Big Ten matchup between Nebraska and Illinois. You got Brandon Peters there. And there's a lot of Michigan fans who think, just like Dylan McCaffrey, Zach Charbonnet was the one who got away, that he was going to be something special at the University of Michigan. And so he's going to get his opportunity at UCLA. Tune in and watch him run the ball and see how he does.
Started off special. Came out of the gate setting records as a freshman.
2020 was tough, yeah. 2020
Yeah,
was tough.
2020 was tough, but 2019, 11 rushing touchdowns, carried the ball about 100 times in that week. Was it week 2 game against
the
Army? Air Force? I can't remember. Maybe Air Force. Anyway.
Middle Tennessee State? I don't know.
Was that Middle Tennessee when he carried it like 38 times or something like that? Anyway. Yeah, a lot of people loved him. I mean, and the Michigan staff kind of billed him as like one of their top targets, regardless of position that year. And now he's a Bruin. So we'll see what he looks like. Just excited, man. Real football. I've been watching NFL preseason stuff, but that's not the same. Like, I'm into it for like a minute, and then I'm like, I don't care about this game.
Right.
But real college football tomorrow, Big Ten game, kicking the whole entire season off. Nebraska and Illinois week 0 will be the first game. You said Nebraska will cover the 6.5.
Nebraska will cover the 6.5. UCLA will not cover.
You say UCLA will win, but not by 18 or more.
Win, but not cover. There
you go. If you're a betting person, Chris Breiler, genius.
I'm the guy to come to. Wait, where's the dog?
I know you can.
Can I get a dog soundbite? Can I get a dog?
Chris
drop?
Breiler, dog. There you go. That's Chris Breiler. He's a dog.
He's a dog.
All right. We will be back on Monday, 7 o'clock, game week. We've got some segments lined up.
Game week. You
Dude.
just said that. Game week.
GTFO, dude. Let's go. Let's go. I just realized that I need more excitable drops on the board. I was like looking for one. I'm like, dude, they're all kind of like sad and.
But you get Will Ferrell once it hits your lips. Something like that. Good. We need some of that. We need some of that energy.
All right, man. We'll be back on Monday to talk a little bit more about Washington and to get ready for Michigan's Week 1 season opener. Signing